Something very alarming just came out of the US economy, and you are not going to want to miss this. This just came out, and people are reaching out about this in record numbers right now, asking what a recession would mean for their Social Security payments, their savings, their Medicare coverage, and the fixed income they depend on every single month to keep their lives running. There are multiple warning signals hitting at the exact same time right now, and if you are retired, if you are on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI, if you have savings in a bank or investments in a retirement account, every single word of what I am about to share with you matters deeply and directly. Fresh recession warnings have just emerged following the latest batch of U.S. economic slowdown signals, and the response from economists, financial institutions, and market analysts has been swift and deeply concerning. Stick with me because I am going to walk you through exactly what these warning signals are, what economists are saying right now, what a recession would actually mean for your benefits and your money, and what practical steps you can take right now to protect yourself. I am going to lay all of this out in plain everyday language with no confusing economic jargon and no unnecessary alarm, because what you need right now is clear, honest information, and that is exactly what we are going to deliver. If you are watching for the very first time, welcome. We are here every single day covering the economic and policy developments that matter most to seniors, retirees, and everyone living on a fixed income in the United States and Canada. Make sure you stay all the way through today, because near the end, I am going to share something that most mainstream financial outlets are completely overlooking about how a recession specifically and differently impacts people on fixed government benefits versus people who are still working and earning wages. That distinction is critically important, and it is something every person in our community needs to understand clearly. So let us get into it right now, starting from the very beginning. To understand why these recession warnings are being taken so seriously right now, you need to understand what signals economists actually look at when they start talking about a recession, because the word itself gets thrown around a lot, and it is important to know what we are actually dealing with. A recession is technically defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. In plain language, that means the overall economy shrinks for 6 months or more in a row. But economists and financial analysts do not wait for that official definition before sounding the alarm. They watch a set of leading indicators that historically show up before a recession officially begins. And right now, several of those leading indicators are flashing in ways that have not been seen together since the period just before previous economic downturns. Let me walk you through each one so you have the full picture. The first major signal that is drawing serious attention is the jobs market. For the past several months, job creation numbers have been coming in below expectations, and in some sectors, outright job losses have begun to appear. Now, the overall unemployment rate is not yet at alarming levels, but the trend line is moving in the wrong direction. And trend lines in economics matter enormously because they tell you where things are heading, not just where they are right now. When businesses stop hiring or begin laying off workers, it means they are seeing less demand for their products and services. Less demand means less economic activity. Less economic activity is the very definition of a slowdown. For retirees, this might seem like a distant concern, but I want to explain why it matters directly to you, even if you have not worked in years, and I will do that in just a moment. The second major warning signal involves consumer spending. American consumers are the engine of the U.S. economy, accounting for roughly 70% of all economic activity. When people start spending less, it sends a powerful signal about how confident they feel about the future. And the latest data shows that consumer spending has begun to slow more sharply than economists expected. People are pulling back on discretionary purchases. They are choosing store brands over name brands. They are eating out less and cooking at home more. They are delaying big purchases like appliances, furniture, and home repairs. These individual choices make complete sense given the pressures people are facing, but collectively they create a feedback loop that can accelerate an economic slowdown. When businesses see less spending, they produce less, hire less, and sometimes lay off workers. Those workers then spend less, and the cycle continues downward. This is the mechanism that turns a slowdown into a recession, and it is precisely what economists are watching with growing concern right now. I will keep you updated as each new round of consumer spending data comes in, because those numbers will tell us a great deal about how quickly or slowly this situation develops. Now let me move to the third warning signal because this one is particularly important for our community and connects directly to your financial life. The manufacturing sector in the United States has been contracting for several months now. The Purchasing Managers' Index, which is one of the most closely watched measures of manufacturing health, has been sitting below the threshold that separates growth from contraction. When factories produce less, it means orders are down. When orders are down, it means demand from businesses and consumers is weakening. And weakening demand across the economy is one of the clearest early warning signs of a recession. For retirees, the connection to manufacturing might not seem obvious at first, but here is why it matters to you directly. Manufacturing weakness flows through the entire supply chain of the economy. It affects the prices you pay for goods. It affects the financial health of companies whose stocks may be held in your retirement account or your pension fund. And it affects the overall tax revenues that federal and state governments collect. And government revenue directly affects the funding available for the programs you depend on. This is why a recession is never just a problem for working-age people. It ripples through every layer of the economy and eventually lands on every household, including the households of retirees and seniors on fixed incomes. People are reaching out right now asking whether a recession would cause their Social Security payments to be cut. I want to address that question directly and clearly. Social Security payments are not directly tied to the performance of the economy in the way that private sector wages or investment returns are. Your monthly benefit is set by law, and it does not go up or down based on whether the stock market is rising or falling. That is one of the most important and underappreciated strengths of Social Security as a foundation of retirement income. It is stable in a way that almost nothing else in the financial world is. However, and this is a critical however, a deep or prolonged recession does create indirect pressures on Social Security that every recipient needs to understand. When unemployment rises significantly during a recession, fewer workers are paying payroll taxes. Payroll taxes are the ongoing revenue source that funds Social Security on a month-to-month basis. If payroll tax revenue drops sharply for an extended period, it accelerates the rate at which the Social Security Trust Fund draws down its reserves. And the trust fund, as I have discussed in previous updates, is already on a path that requires legislative attention within the coming decade. A severe recession does not create an immediate payment crisis, but it does make the long-term math more difficult, and it adds urgency to the conversation about shoring up the program's finances. This is why I watch these economic signals so carefully and report them to you even when they might seem like distant Wall Street concerns. Because nothing about the economy is truly distant from your monthly check and your daily financial life. Now let me talk about something that is affecting seniors much more immediately and directly right now, and that is what this economic slowdown is doing to prices. You might expect that an economic slowdown would bring prices down, and in theory, that is how it is supposed to work. When demand falls, prices should ease. But what we are seeing right now is something more complicated and frankly more frustrating. We have a situation where the economy is slowing and showing recession warning signs, while prices in certain critical categories remain stubbornly elevated. Economists call this stagflation when it reaches a certain severity, and while we are not fully in that territory yet, the early warning signs of a stagflation-like environment are exactly what several leading economists are now discussing publicly. For seniors on fixed incomes, this combination is particularly punishing. A slowing economy means your savings and any investments you hold may lose value or generate lower returns, but elevated prices mean your cost of living stays high or continues to climb. You are being squeezed from both directions at once, and that is exactly the reality that millions of older Americans are living with right now. I want to be honest with you about this because you deserve honesty, not false comfort. This is a genuinely difficult economic environment for people on fixed incomes, but there are things you can do, and I am going to walk you through them. First, let us talk about your savings. In a slowing economy with potential recession ahead, the stability and security of where your money is held matters more than ever. Make sure any money you cannot afford to lose is in FDIC-insured accounts. The coverage limit is $250,000 per deposit or per institution per account category. Money within those limits is protected even if a bank fails. If you have retirement savings in accounts that are invested in the stock market, now is not the time to make panic decisions. History shows clearly that people who sell investments in a panic during downturns often lock in losses and then miss the recovery. That said, if you are heavily invested in volatile assets and you are depending on that money in the near term, a conversation with a qualified financial advisor about your risk exposure is absolutely appropriate right now. Second, let us talk about your budget. In a period of economic stress, knowing exactly where every dollar goes is more important than ever. If you are not already tracking your spending category by category, now is the time to start. Look at which expenses have risen the most sharply. Look at where you might have flexibility and where you absolutely do not. There are also assistance programs that many eligible seniors are not enrolled in that could help stretch your monthly income further during a difficult economic period. The Extra Help Program for Medicare prescription drug costs, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for food assistance, the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program for utility bills, and various state-level property tax relief programs are all worth investigating if you have not already. These programs exist specifically for situations like the one we are navigating right now. Do not leave assistance on the table simply because you did not know it was there. I will keep you updated as new assistance programs are announced or expanded in response to the deteriorating economic conditions. Now let me speak briefly to our community members in Canada because the economic slowdown warnings are not confined to the United States border. Canada's economy is deeply intertwined with the American economy through trade, investment, and financial market connections. When the U.S. economy slows significantly, Canada almost always feels the effects. Canadian seniors on old age security, the Guaranteed Income Supplement, and the Canada Pension Plan are facing their own version of these pressures. Prices remain elevated in Canada as well, and the Bank of Canada is navigating similar challenges around interest rates and economic growth. The economic uncertainty on both sides of the border is real, and it is affecting fixed-income households in very similar ways, regardless of which country you call home. I will continue to bring updates relevant to both communities because financial security for older adults is a concern that knows no borders. I am going to be right here every single day watching every economic indicator, every policy development, every data release that could affect your financial security and your monthly income. When something important happens, you will hear it here first in plain, clear, honest language that actually makes sense for real people living real lives. If today's update brought some clarity to something that felt confusing or frightening before, please share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. Keyword: group of diverse seniors sitting together in warm, sunny rooms sharing information and mutual support. This community exists because you deserve better than confusion and fear. You deserve clarity, honesty, and someone in your corner every single day. And that is a promise I intend to keep. Stay informed, stay steady, and I will be back very soon with the next important update. Take very good care of yourself and everyone you love.